Diddy's former assistant, who went by the pseudonym Mia, writes a sentencing letter against Diddy. Mia was listed as one of the victims, so people are wanting to also know about Jane. But what I will tell you, as of right now, Jane has not submitted a letter against Diddy for his sentencing hearing coming up on Friday. I honestly don't know why that is. I have no idea where Jane is at or what she is doing, but for now, we're going to go ahead and read these statements that are coming from Diddy's former assistant, Mia. Your Honor, I am writing you on behalf of my younger self, the little girl who once dreamed without fear, who believed the world was full of possibility, who had faith in the goodness of people, and who trusted that her hard work, big heart, and integrity could carry her towards a bright and meaningful future. That little girl is gone. She was buried alive by an abuser, trapped in a world of terror, abuse, humiliation, and coercive control. This letter has been excruciating to write. Other than my testimony, I've never had the courage to discuss my abuse publicly. It feels impossible to describe as I'm slowly beginning to unravel the tangled web of trauma myself. I decided that it's better to describe the permanent damage that Sean Combs, my abuser, has caused me rather than to remain silent any longer. And working for my abuser in my early 20s after I moved to New York City with only a mattress on my car and a dream in my heart. I was made to believe the opportunity of a lifetime was to work for him. I was young and naive. I wanted to make a name for myself. I wanted to change the world for the better through my creativity. My dream was to one day become a writer, producer, performer, and in the early years, I was hopeful and innocent. From the start, however, my abuser preyed on that innocence. What I thought was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity gradually became a never-ending nightmare. I experienced manipulation, humiliation, coercion, and violence. I was groomed, exploited, and broken down. He stripped me of my freedom, my safety, my identity, my instincts, my autonomy. Alternated rewards and punishment to break down my self-worth and instincts, creating dependency and confusion. He dangled my dreams in front of me like a carrot, promising opportunity, mentorship, and advancement. He controlled every part of my life. I needed his permission for everything. When I could sleep, when I could eat, and when I could use the bathroom. When I could go to my room, and even when I could go buy women's supplies. He created a life that was nothing like mine. I lived in constant fear because his moods would determine my right to exist. Asking for compensation for my labor, including overtime requests or reimbursement requests for work-related expenses, would lead him to throwing a tantrum, yelling, and sometimes throwing objects in my direction in an effort to humiliate me. He framed my request as stealing and made me ashamed to expect income at all. Through his financial manipulation, he kept me dependent and trapped. My work for the defendant was not a job, it was captivity. His coercive control and unpredictable violence left long-lasting psychological scars. Anxiety, hypervigilance, disassociation, self-doubt, and years of abuse that have rewired my brain. Even today, I struggle, feeling trapped in the mental and emotional patterns that he created. I live with chronic and severe PTSD, depression, and crippling anxiety. I suffer greatly with my thoughts, derealization, panic attacks, night terrors, and insomnia. When I can get a few hours of precious sleep, those hours are often filled with night terrors that wake me up in a breathless sweat, screaming and crying. I awake with my heart pounding, grasping, as if I'm trapped. I have struggled to feel safe in any workplace because of my PTSD, which has resulted in fragmented professional record and bankruptcy application and crippling debt. I can't go to many public places that I once loved, concerts, festivals, clubs, without risking having a panic attack. I have struggled to set roots in any location and build a community of support for fear that my abuser would find me and ruin my life all over again. I avoid social media, I can't listen to the music I once loved, and I can't watch many TV shows or movies, all for the fear that I might be unexpectedly triggered to relive some of those worst moments of my life. All of this trauma was compounded by the impact of my testimony at my abuser's trial. The investigation and pretrial process threw me back into a world that I had spent many years desperately trying to suppress. It buried so many terrible memories of abuse, including violence and assault, that I was forced to dig up and relive. I cannot overstate the traumatizing impact of reading his threatening emails, reviewing old photos and videos, and hearing his voice again. Every meeting felt like a hammer striking on a fragile foundation of my healing. The anticipation of testifying was also horrendous. My therapy sessions were spent bracing for the moment that I would have to face him in your courtroom instead of focusing on rebuilding my life and foregoing a new future. When I tried to imagine walking into the crowded courtroom and facing him, I would black out. For months, I suffered from panic attacks. My tongue swelled, my stomach dropped, my hands went cold, my legs became numb. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. The feeling of dread and terror was so intense that I couldn't hide it. I would randomly burst into uncontrollable childlike sobs. I found myself self-isolating for fear of being a burden to the people I love. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to say I was not okay. I had been conditioned for so many years to believe that my needs were so unimportant that my emotion was forbidden. If I expressed any indication that I was suffering or unwell, I could be in imminent danger. I wanted to jump out of my skin. I felt relentlessly ashamed. As a result of the defense team's tactics during my testimony, my identity has been publicized, and my name is no longer my own. It's forever linked to my abuser's violence. My sweet, loving parents had to read horrible details about the abuse of their daughter, riddling them with anxiety and leaving them with unfair questions, as if they could have done anything to prevent this. Everyone I have known, everyone I will ever meet, will now know my darkest moments, even my children in my life. My sweet niece, my nephew, my loving goddaughter, my godson, my friends' children who inspired me to tell my truth will one day read the vile details of my abuse. Although the verdict fell short on justice I had hoped for, the defendant was still found guilty of serious crimes. What he stole from me cannot be returned. It cannot be reduced to years or money. He stole my freedom, my sense of safety, my ability to trust myself and others, and my confidence. He stole my dreams of having a stable, healthy family of my own, my career, and both my creative work product and creative aspirations. He stole 16 years of my life, time that I should have spent developing into an independent woman that I was meant to be. My life has been profoundly broken. I am pleading on behalf of my inner child, the sweet, hopeful, bright-eyed girl who could not survive the defendant's abuse, and for the woman that I should have become, who was robbed of her future. I am pleading for the brave victims that have came forward, and the countless other victims who continue to suffer, who had just been scared into silence. The defendant shattered many lives, and they deserve justice too. They deserve to live without shame or fear. Victims of abuse, especially women, are often forced to prove themselves while reliving the trauma that destroyed them. We are questioned, doubted, humiliated, re-victimized, as if surviving and coming forward to tell the story of our survival makes us suspect. We are forced to serve a life sentence of living with the consequence of the defendant's abuse every day. Finally, I am pleading on the behalf of future generations who deserve a world where predators cannot escape accountability. Your Honor, I ask that you do the justice through the sentence that you impose on October 3rd of 2025. The defendant's wealth, power, and fame should not place him above the law. These forces have shielded him for way too long. I ask that you deliver the sentence that reflects the full measure of the harm that he has caused, the years of coercion, financial abuse, humiliation, physical abuse, and violence, and the profound trauma that he has inflicted as a result. I ask you to deliver a sentence that takes into account the ongoing danger my abuser poses to me and to many others. A sentence that honors the truth, the pain, and the lives that he has destroyed. A sentence that gives us hope, protection, and justice. Please help us believe that the legal system can offer justice to innocent and vulnerable victims with those that have power, wealth, and influence. Help us believe in a world where survivors are heard, believed, and protected. Help us restore the belief that God can prevail. Help us ensure that no one else suffers as we have. Help us believe that justice can and does exist by holding our abuser fully accountable. Please, Your Honor, you have the power to show us, the world, the future, that our lives, our voices, our truth, and our humanity matter. Please help us. With gratitude and respect, Mia. Capricorn Clark has submitted a sentencing letter against Diddy. I testified in your courtroom in this case in May of 2025. As you heard, I worked for Puff from 2004 to 2012, and during that time, I got to know him very well. Since Puff fired me in 2012, he had me blacklisted from the industry, and I've had to take multiple jobs to garner anything near my worth. Today, I'm a single mother to a nonverbal autistic little boy living in Los Angeles. This ordeal has taken 14 years of my life. My career halted at 33 years old. What I lived through working with Puff, and in particular the events of December 2011, altered the course of my life and haunted me for years. She's talking about the situation where she was kidnapped and took to Kid Cudi's home. I feel that I paid with my life for the events that transpired that fateful day that we had to relive in federal court. I never wanted this. For many years, I could not tell my story and lived in fear. Fear of Puff, and fear of how I would feed my son. About a year and a half ago, Homeland Security agents found me and asked me what happened. Those agents changed my life, and I would like to say that the Southern District of New York is the epitome of prestigious and professionalism, and I was handled with the ultimate care. Testifying publicly in front of Puff and his supporters was one of the hardest moments of my life. Every last word you heard from me was the truth. Yet I felt, and to be honest, still feel like I had to fight to prove that I am a victim because of the purpose of kidnapping wasn't for trafficking. What it was for something more serious, more sinister and grave. violence and absolute power, unchecked in the ultra rich and famous. It's insane to me. Out of all the things that people have heard, 2 counts of prosta of men is the only thing that remains on the table. I wanted to speak up, tell the truth, and do the right thing when I was asked to testify. But I am afraid that women and girls in America feel less protected than ever watching what just happened. This lesson seems to be that we should not speak up, not call law enforcement for help, and not say anything, but instead keep our head down and try to make a way, regardless of what happens to us. I'm afraid this may be the only realistic way to proceed in the modern world. Last ray of light is that you provide justice for us. You have a chance to finally help him know that he cannot just do what he wants to people. There are repercussions and consequences. He cannot just destroy other people's lives. Karma will come back 100-fold ways. I would like Sean Combs to serve additional time in the correctional institution. I truly believe that serving more time will save Puff's life, as time away from money, substances, and power is the only punishment that he will recognize. I hope Puff has life on the other side of his time, to make good on the changes that he knows he needs to make, to spend time with his family, and get a chance to correct the damage that he has so recklessly done to so many people who have tried to do well by him. Thank you, Your Honor, for your time and consideration and for hearing us finally. God bless Capricorn Clark. But y'all, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.